Welcome, guys, to Ask Kotaku. We haven't done a video one in, I think, 2 weeks, but I'm here with Evan Narcisse.
Why am I here?
You're here to talk about things and give people advice.
Sure,
Because you're
I
smart
can do that.
and you're good with people.
I'm old.
True story. Well, I guess it's like two spectrums of advice then in that case.
Exactly. Sure.
All right, so we have a couple questions this week, and we're going to get into those right now.
How many times do you play through a game before you post a review/article? Is this something that just varies from person to person? Additionally, do you try to just beat the game, or do you explore every nook and cranny that it has to offer your first time through?
Part of the question where it deals with how many times is pretty, I think that varies because it depends on when we get a game and how long the game is. You know, a lot of times going into a game, you don't know how long it is. It could feel like an 8-hour game and really turns into a 16-hour game. So you have to adjust accordingly how much of it you play. That said, I think we all try to play through the entirety of a single player campaign when we play a game. And again, depending on what they're offering, we do some multiplayer, some exploration. Like when I was playing Tomb Raider, I beat the campaign, but because exploration is such a big part of that game, I didn't want to just blow through all the plot points. I made sure to kind of climb around the environment, explore some of the tombs, look for some of the collectibles, because that's clearly part of what you're supposed to take away from the game. So, you know, at least once, depending on the kind of game it is, like Ni no Kuni is like, you know, dozens of hours long. It's the kind of thing where we almost never get the game in time to post a review, to finish the game when it's out. So we kind of have to, you know, adjust how we play things.
Yeah, it definitely depends on the kind of game. Like if it's an RPG with like hundreds of hours, all right, like 100 maybe max hours, there's no way you're gonna get into like every nook and cranny, but you at least want to play like the main missions, some amount of the side missions, definitely explore them an amount. Basically, you just want to make sure that you have a good understanding of what you just played, and if somebody sat you down and asked you a bunch of questions, you're able to like answer all of those.
Yeah, and if you're able to recommend it too, you know, like you won't be, okay, I've sampled enough of this thing to be able to say, you know what, it's worth your time, it's worth your attention, or stay the hell away from this thing. And plus, if it's like a fighting game, that's almost the opposite, where it's like you try to spend as much time with those, like playing against other people and not doing the single player stuff, because single player stuff is almost like an afterthought.
Yeah, it's almost like a really long tutorial, essentially.
Exactly.
It's a long practice round. Yeah, and that goes for any like sort of competitive atmosphere game, because if you're playing like a shooter, you just want to get a feel for like what the players are like, because that totally impacts what a game is like. So that's why even like we'll update our reviews a lot of times and say like, now we've played with public servers, so there's a difference as opposed to playing with people who have the game before a game comes out, sort of along those lines. But we definitely all do have our own style. Like I know Kirk likes to play through like 12 times because he's insane, and I don't know how he has time for that.
Yeah, neither do I.
Yeah, he's just a maniac, essentially, a machine. But he, you know, some of us will like to play on like normal and then play on hard, see what that's like, and experiment a little bit.
How do you feel about the game reviewing process? Is it becoming more challenging given that content keeps increasing and more games come out every year, especially on the mobile front? What do you wish could be provided to make it easier for you?
So fortunately, we have Mr. Mike Fahey, who handles all of the mobile games, especially because I personally just don't really play mobile games. There are some that I'll get addicted to because I'm a human being with an iPhone and like travel time.
Right.
So it happens, but I like reviewing games. The only problem, just on a personal level, is that most of the time, like we don't play games in the office, very rarely.
Yeah.
Our video guys will play games in the office for capture and whatnot, but we have to take our games home. So like after 7 p.m. and on the weekends is when we have to play these things. So sometimes I'm like, crap, I was really hoping I could do something other than playing games all weekend, which like, I mean, it's not the biggest problem to have, obviously, but
definitely a first world problem, right?
It's definitely a first world problem, but it could be nice to have your weekends, because sometimes it feels like work. Because, you know, even though you're playing a video game and you like that video game, at the same time you're taking notes and trying to formulate thoughts in the middle of this. So
it's definitely a different process than playing a game just for fun, right? When you're playing something because you want to try it out, you sit down, you know, you give it a little bit of time. If it's not moving you, you can move on. But when you're playing a game for review, you have to stick through it no matter what, no matter how terrible it is. Yeah, I'm thinking about You Steel Battalion, um, among other ones.
Expendables 2.
Yeah, exactly.
That was like the lowest rated game, and I reviewed that.
Right.
I felt like a trooper.
We
Owen
all-
was like, Tina, good job.
We all have our battle scars.
Yeah.
Yeah, but when you're playing a game for review, you have to segment part of the experience in the other side of your brain, right? You have to be like, okay, I'm playing, but also I have to be thinking about what are the takeaways here? What am I gonna write about? For me at home, I'm lucky enough to have a smaller TV on my desk, so I'm able to do like this, write down, and then go back to playing. But it's a very segmented experience, so it feels like you have to go back and play the game as intensely as you can in a short amount of time. And that's not the way you'd normally play a game, right? Sometimes you do a level a night or whatever, and when we're reviewing, you have to cram as much in as you can, and it's definitely super time intensive. And like Tina said, it cuts into your personal time.
And the whole concept of deadlines too is just like this pressure looming over your head, like knowing that you have to finish by a certain time. So it does sort of drain a lot of the fun out of it, but it's still definitely, like we said, a first world problem. Not too big a deal. We can live with it, I guess.
What do we need to make it easier? Make reviewing games easier?
Oh yeah, so that was another part of the question. Actually, I think it would be great, and I can see why people would take advantage of this and why it's not done, but it would be great if we can have just a completely open game, which I know is more possible on PC builds, but I don't have a PC, stupidly. I only have a 360 for now. I live in a studio apartment, okay? You can't exactly have a desktop PC. So one day, when I live in a mansion with my German Shepherd.
She's working on it.
Yeah, slowly but surely. But yeah, it would be great if like the whole game is just open to you. You can skip chapter by chapter. Because sometimes I would like want to revisit a chapter just to like get a refresher of it. So, and you know, obviously some games do have that structure. Once you finish it, you unlock chapters. Or like, you know, if you're playing something with like a levelable character, then to have things like fully unlocked so you can experiment with higher level things that maybe you wouldn't get to.
Which
without,
upgrades are really going to work for you better.
Yeah.
That kind of thing. I've had the same thought where it's like, oh wait, you know, if I had known about this thing later in the game, if I should have started building up that skill, it would have been easier. So, but these are the kind of things that actually help you critique the design of a game, because it's like, if you find yourself if something feels lacking at a certain part of the game and then doesn't later, you have to judge whether that's a good intent or a bad intent, that kind of thing.
It's kind of like having a cheat code, though. So I imagine like maybe, you know, developers, publishers wouldn't trust some reviewers to like play the game in its like original natural state, like the way that it's meant to be played, and potentially just take advantage of those things. But it would be nice if like we could play the full game in the way it was meant to be played and then have those cheats later just to play around with things and see how it works exactly.
As for me, the thing I would like to have to make game reviewing easier, probably a babysitter.
Oh,
because
yeah.
I've got a young kid at home, and I have to wait till she goes to bed to play, and that can be whenever the hell she wants. So, yeah.
I've told you so many times, warm milk with honey. I tell Evan this all the time. Warm milk with honey puts you right to bed. I do it for myself sometimes.
She's got amazing sleep repelling powers.
Pretty much.
How are you today? Like, emotionally?
I'm pretty good emotionally. I've been pretty happy. I just got a promotion, so I'm really happy about
Congratulations.
that. Thank you. That's like the 5th congratulations you gave me, but it doesn't get any less exciting every time.
So you're good.
Yeah,
I'm good
I'm good.
because tomorrow's my birthday. I'm excited about that. It's Thursday. Essentially, my week is over because I'm not working on my birthday. So I feel pretty good. I will maybe sleep late tomorrow if my
That's always
kid lets
nice.
me. Yeah. So we're good. Thank you for asking.
Yeah, thank you.
I love your how-to videos, and I was thinking, wouldn't it be great if you made one about dealing with heartbreak? Personally, I'm at a loss and I have no idea how to handle this.
You want to start this one or should I? I have a lot to say about this.
Okay. I think I do too.
I'm sure we all do. We're human beings. We've all
Exactly.
been heartbroken before.
Or been heartbreakers.
Yes, I'm sure.
Not me. I've always had-
Unintentionally, if anything.
Sure. Yeah, it's funny with heartbreak. It's tough to see it when you're inside of it at the end of a breakup, but it can actually be a good thing, because if a relationship ends, that means that part of it probably just wasn't working. Sometimes we're in denial about that. Sometimes we're not. Sometimes we hope things will get better. but oftentimes it's just beyond our ability to fix a bad relationship. So even while you're mourning the thing that you had, the person that you were with, you can move on past it and recognize that, a better opportunity or another opportunity may be around the corner. For me, when I've gone through bad breakups, I did one of two things. I would kind of go off by myself and spend a lot of time by myself, moping, whatever. Or I'd lose myself in my friends. I'd, hang out with them a lot more. I'm lucky to have friends who were able to kind of pull me up out of the doldrums and make me feel better about myself at the end of a breakup. I lean on the people who care about you, who are still in your life. That's one of the things that I've been able to do.
Yeah, that's definitely like a two key things that you need to do is like one, think about it logically, which is so difficult because your emotions are completely overriding like any reason that your brain is like, shut the hell up, and your heart is like, I just can't, sorry.
Yeah.
But so you really, as best as you can, to try to think of it from like an outside perspective, from a future perspective. If you're hung up on something that didn't work, then you're just diminishing your chances at your future, which can be so much more exciting than what you had with that person that you are heartbroken over. And the other thing is distractions. So like, you have your friends. I am just a media fiend, so I dive into TV shows and I get completely engrossed in them and I devour them. Like I just seriously devour and marathon the hell out of TV shows. And it's nice because I'm not thinking about my own situation. I'm thinking about these fictional characters. And the same goes for like video games too. I try to stay away from music because I always get really emotional with music. So
yeah,
as much as I love it, and I actually love getting emotional because of music, but not when you're already dealing with some shit. So yeah, I mean, everybody has their own way though, basically is what it comes down to. But it's all about trying to see it logically, rationally, optimistically even, and distracting yourself until the pain goes away, because time heals all wounds, as they say.
Hang in there.
Yeah, buddy.
In my family, I am the only gamer. None of them are gamers like myself, or have any interest in the nerd culture that I'm very much a part of. I've tried getting into similar things that they like football and such, but I can't get into it. It's just not me. I have tried to find a middle ground with them by taking their own interests and finding games that they might be interested in, but it never works. They want no part of my interests, and it feels like they want nothing to do with me. Is there any way to close the gap while still being true to myself?
So this one's kind of difficult because it sounds like, you've tried and there isn't a lot of middle ground and they don't really want to meet you halfway either. A lot of my family members don't really understand games, and I've just kind of given up on pushing it on them. One of my brothers does, and the way we bond over it is he's like, hey, I heard about that game. Can you give me that game? Ship it over to me. He's in Texas, so he's just like, do everything for me.
You're his supplier.
I am his supplier, but I'm good. I rarely send him the games. I'm like, why don't you come to New York, and then we'll give you stuff. But I mean, basically, if there's got to be something, because any human being you meet on the street, there's something you can bond with them over, I think. So, as much as you've tried, even like cooking, eating food, drinking alcohol, I think all people like those things, at least some of those things.
Yeah, you share commonality with the people around you, especially when they're as close as family members, right? So there's got to be something, like if it's a younger sister who has, a dance recital or a science project coming up, that's a moment where you can kind of help out or whatever.
Yeah, even just support, like
exactly.
That's something to bond over, just being a family that's there for each other.
Yeah, with parents it's hard because there's a generational gap, and they may have concerns that nothing about, like work or budget or stuff like that, grown-up stuff. And the same goes in reverse, right? Like your day-to-day life in high school or college or whatever may seem like a totally foreign thing for your parents, but those parts of your life, what we do each day, like probably are a little easier to bond around than say your hobbies or the things that you're passionate about in terms of like what you like to read or listen to or watch or play.
That was really wise, Evan.
I mean, I've been there, like my mom, I was raised by a single mom, and she, video games and comics seemed like the worst kind of distractions to her. They turned out to be my career, but...
even then, sometimes they won't approve of it.
Yeah, no.
My parents are still kind of hairy about it.
And it's hard, like my brother and my sister, just like your siblings, like,
doing legitimate things.
yeah, they're doing legitimate things.
Our jobs are illegitimate.
Right. But also, you know, what we do day in, day out is a rare distraction for them, right? My brother plays video games, but not the same way I do, and not as many as I do.
Right, they don't live and breathe it.
Right.
They enjoy it as often as.
But at the same time, I
enjoy
can
it.
still talk to my brother about how our kids are doing, or you know, the new J. Cole album, or you know, there's other points of commonality where you can kind of just be like, oh wait, we can bond around this, even if it's not the thing that I'm so super excited about. My brother's excited about tons of stuff that I really don't care about. Sorry, bro. But and the same thing with my sister. But you know, I care that it matters to me that it matters to them, even if it doesn't matter as much. So, you know, you can find probably some stuff that may seem like a little bit boring. It's not as exciting as the next kind of Watch Dogs trailer, you know? They may not get excited about that, but everybody can get excited about the fact that, hey, you know, we're all gonna go out as a family and hang out, or here's a movie we can see together that everybody can agree on.
Let's go mini golfing.
Exactly, or just mini golfing?
I like mini golfing.
Sure.
I mean, like the really elaborate ones, like Happy Gilmore style.
Okay, Happy Gilmore.
Yeah, I bet that doesn't exist though.
It's a good thing we're not related. Anywho, you can bond around stuff like that. It doesn't have to be about the thing you're most obsessed about. There are things there that you can find some connection around.
Yeah, and you might feel like you've already tried it all, but there's something out there. Just keep digging and you'll find something. And, you know, accept the fact that they might not like video games. And maybe one day you're playing something and they look at it and they're kind of interested. And that's just like, you know, a happy coincidence. But I wouldn't try to force that too much. Just try to find something that you guys can both sort of relate to.
Good luck.
Yeah.
Do you see yourself working anywhere else after working at Kotaku? Asked another way, is Kotaku your dream job? And if not, what is? Also, is there anything that you miss about the old site? 2006 to 2011 years, give or take.
Before I started at Kotaku, I was a freelancer for a lot of different websites and news outlets. And the weird thing for me was that, you know, my livelihood depended on whether people at the organization where I was at, how they felt about video games. Like, it would wax and it would wane, right? You'd be like, video games, we're excited. We want to, you know, plant our flag in the ground of video games and show people that we're here. And that was great. And then some time would pass and be like, yeah, video games, I still don't get them. And that means that I don't have a paycheck anymore. So part of the question is whether Kotaku is my dream job. And yes, it is, because I don't have to worry about justifying the thing that I'm passionate about and writing about it in a way that kind of feels comfortable to me. I get to have a very individualized voice here at Kotaku and pursue the avenues that interest me most about video games without having to make them fit into this kind of mainstream or you know, business-minded mentality. I get to write about games as games and not like a curiosity. So I like that part of working here a lot.
Plus, you have the best coworkers.
Yes,
This is where you say
that's
yes.
true. I have the best coworkers.
It pretty much is my dream job too. I mean, I didn't realize how well I was gonna fit in. I started about like a little over a year and a half ago. I came from Complex Magazine, and it was a very different environment there. Video games were like, you know, something that also waxes and wanes. Like, you're
Right.
not sure when it's gonna really be exciting to people.
You get a page.
Yeah, at best. I remember I had like a Borderlands 2 like exclusive thing, and they were like, cut it. And I was like, Borderlands 2? This was before it came out, obviously. And like barely any news was there. But now, like, if I have a Borderlands 2, or I guess Borderlands 3 at this point, it would be something that everyone around me would be excited about, and that feeling is like next to nothing.
Yeah.
But I really didn't know how like good of a fit this was gonna be, and then now that I'm here, absolutely, like, I couldn't see it any other way. So I think that answers your question. And as for your other question, you know, at least for me, when I think about Kotaku, I think about the things that I feel I've helped build in the past like year and a half-ish. So, I mean, that's just my vision of my version of Kotaku, essentially.
Yeah, you know, it's funny. People talk about the old Kotaku, and there was probably more than one version, right? And I think whenever you talk about something that has a long life in the public eye, there are parts of it that carry over, right? So some of the humor is still there. Some of the focus on, video games as like these cultural happenings, and the things that people get excited about. A lot of that is still there. I think the old Kotaku is, still very much part of the new Kotaku. People may be talking about the way the site looked back in the day, or the different commenting systems and stuff. Like, when you're talking about life as a internet entity, that stuff always changes. Message boards aren't the same the way they used to be like 4 or 5, 6 years ago. I think the things that made Kotaku great in the past are still very much there. Maybe a bunch of different faces, different names. But I think Kotaku is still a place where you come to get an opinionated take about what video games mean to people, the people that play them, the people that make them, and what they can be in their present form and in their future form. So I think a lot of that stuff is still in Kotaku. At least we try to make it be, right?
Yeah, absolutely. And it's definitely an evolution. I mean, like, we've been in existence for over 8 years now, and that kind of thing is inevitable. So I think a lot of like the core is still there. Some of the like tone and the perspective and like the emphasis that we have and what we're striving for, and like all the things that you were talking about, that you said you were excited about Kotaku, about like, individualizing your voice and like just talking about games in a very genuine, like conversational way. I think a lot of that is just carried over, and but again, as an evolution, of course, as anything would be. That's it for this week, guys. Thanks for your questions. Be sure to send me more for next week's segment. Thank you, Evan, for joining me for the first time in this.
Thank you for having me. I'm the first guest, right?
Yes, you are the first guest.
Good.
Yes, the first esteemed guest.
First.
Yes.
What?
Internet style.
Exactly.
Yeah. But I hope you guys enjoyed it, and definitely be sure to hit me up with questions.
Take it easy, everybody.
See you.